Well, welcome back to Youth Ministry Insights, and I am excited to be here today because I am with another Talking Catholic family host who hosts Changing with the Tides. Her name is Alexis Keefer. I like to call her Lex, and she's going to be sharing today with me just about how she inspires others through herself, through her way, through her disability, and how she can share that with so many others, and especially through her Catholic faith. So, Lex, welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so good to be here, everyone. Thank you for having me, Kari.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to have you.
Me too. I'm excited to be here. I love filming videos.
Yeah.
I found a new hobby with it years ago when Mike originally asked me, so.
Nice. Well, yeah, we're part of this, what I like to call the Talking Catholic family, but this whole YouTube show where we have different videos on their different topics. Yours is Changing with the Tides. I'm Youth Ministry Insights. We have a few others who have different shows that they host, which we'll get to them in future episodes. But this is my first crossover episode, and I'm with you, Lex, to share all about your show, who you are, and what you like to do. So maybe if you can tell everybody on our Youth Ministry Insights show today, what's your story? What do you love to share about who you are?
Well, my name is Alexis. We want to go through do we want to go through every bit and piece, or just the highlights?
Highlights, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Highlights just sounds good.
So I was born and raised in South Jersey. I moved to Hawaii when I was 10. There, I kind of just did Hawaiian things. I went to the beach after school and just things like that. And then from there, we moved back to Jersey. And that's kind of where my, in the beginning of all that, I was diagnosed with a disease called Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. But that kind of wasn't where my what do we call that? Disability journey, we'll call it, I guess. I don't know, that wasn't kind of where my disability journey started. I had surgery before I moved to Hawaii, but then after I moved back, I had another surgery, and that from there is kind of where what led to now, we'll call it. So I was diagnosed with CMT, and then I had the surgery when I was a freshman in high school. A year later, I was diagnosed with a disease called achalasia. The two have no correlation, so that's what kind of threw my parents as two nurses off. Because
Sweet, both of your parents are nurses.
Yes.
So hearing this for them was something totally new.
Yes, and it just kind of blew their minds because at the time, around the time I was diagnosed with the achalasia, my parents had me start seeing a neurologist at the University of Penn who specializes in patients who have Charcot-Marie-Tooth disease. If you hear me call it CMT, that's what I'm referring to. It's just an acronym and a shorter way of saying it.
Yeah.
But this doctor specializes in CMT, so I started seeing him. It was great. Things were going well. The only problem was he was at the University of Penn. And I was 16, so he wasn't technically able to start doing anything to me because
you were youth.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing with CMT is there are several different types. There's axonal and demyelinating, which they're known as types 1 and type 2. However, off of type 1, there's A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Maybe not G, but there's several other subcategories. So the whole, I think, 16 years I thought I had CMT. No doctor could ever figure out what type I had. Now, when I got to this doctor, that's where he was very perplexed and what is happening with this girl? She has achalasia. I've never heard of this. As a doctor, that's kind of weird to me. And so once I turned 18, he did what's called an EMG. Don't ask me what that stands for. I have no idea. But he did this EMG test, and basically what it is they put little kind of circle sticky things all over your arms and legs, and they shock your nerves.
Wow.
For me personally, it hurt really bad. Yeah. But for other people who have CMT and other diseases, they can't feel a thing. So that's kind of where it got my doctor too, because typically I don't feel things on my legs. I don't feel from here down.
Oh, wow.
So my doctor to this day will prick me with a needle and I'm not feeling there's
meanwhile you're bleeding or something going on. No.
Not quite that dramatic,
bad,
but still it's the concept of she's pricking me with a needle and I'm not feeling it.
And you don't feel it.
Pricking me with the needle is she's just doing it to make sure I still don't have feeling, which I'm not going to. I'm going to continue losing feeling as I get older, but it's okay. I've accepted it. But Okay, so that's kind of where he was like, something's not right, something's not the same. So from there, I think when I had the test, I was 18, and then once I turned 20, it was right around when the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun, but around that same time, my neurologist called my parents and was like, I'm going to run a blood panel, but I don't think she has CMT. I think she has a mitochondrial disease, which is extremely more rare than CMT. Because CMT is a disease where it affects your peripheral nerves, which I'm not sure if you know that term, but it affects the nerves on the outside of your body. And my nerves were affected, but like kind of to the extreme, and like more, like my CMT went from bad to worse very rapidly, and that's kind of where my doctor was perplexed. So he ran my blood, and then like a while later, he figured out that I don't have CMT and I have a disease called, well, technically the name of the gene is POLG. It's known as polyamorous gamma, I think it's called. But so I have this POLG now, and honestly, I was graduating, like all these things just were happening at once. I was graduating college, I was diagnosed with this new disease. It took us a while to get in to see the new neurologist because obviously my Dr. Shear, his name is, he was like, I don't want you to see me anymore because I'm not going to be able to do anything for you. So he referred us to this neurologist at CHOP, and honestly, since then, she's been a godsend, but she always jokes whenever I see her. I feel like I'm breaking you because I just don't know how to take care of you and like help you. Because the thing with the type of POLG that I have is, again, different types of POLG, it's 1 in 40,000, so it's very extremely rare. Actually, consequently, today's Rare Disease Day. So happy Rare Disease Day
to you and all others that,
exactly.
that have
so
that
many
wonderful title. Wonderful, I'm going to say, because in a way that you embrace it to share it with the world, to share it with all of us.
I'm very open. I've always been pretty open about
I admire
what I
that
go
about
through.
you a lot.
Thank you. So there's different types, and the type that I have has never been seen on any other patients in the world.
Oh, wow.
So like what we're doing as like me, the patient, my parents, the caregivers, and my doctors is all new territory. So I had an infusion that was supposed to help me when I was first diagnosed, and it put me in the hospital. So that's kind of like what, like since then I've started a couple new meds, but honestly, then I broke my arm, and it's just been kind of trying to get my arm healed so that I can get back to a place where I can try new therapies or things that may help me. So I don't know. That's just a little bit about my medical journey. Now let me tell you about my religious journey, spiritual journey,
faith journey.
Yeah. So honestly, I grew up Catholic. I've always gone to church, but I think every young adult or whoever has that time in their life where they're like struggling with faith. And I never really got to that, like the extent of like, who is God? Why am I why am I here? And like, honestly, I think about why my life is the way it is sometimes, but I've never gotten to the point of like questioning why I'm here and why I'm struggling so much. But when I was in high school, I kind of like was really involved with my, because I don't know if your school's, because you teach here, right? Okay, so I don't know if you guys have, but for one of their graduation requirements was you had to do a certain amount of service hours.
Yep.
So I started getting heavily involved with my church's CCD program, and I would volunteer every, I guess, Monday and Tuesday night, or Monday or Tuesday night. And I would just go in and answer the phones and do like clerical type stuff. Then once I got to college and I graduated high school, I just started teaching, and it flowed so naturally. But then once I kind of...
So you were religious ed teacher for CCD. What grade did you teach?
In the beginning, it was 6th grade.
Ooh, those are rough years. Good for you. That's awesome.
It was only 1 year.
Yeah.
But then I taught 4th grade and was there teaching 4th for a while. I want to say like
that's a fun age.
3 or 4 years. And then now I teach 5th grade. So it's nice because last year I taught 4th grade, but it was over Zoom. So this year I have those same students because I'm teaching 5th grade.
Oh, so now they get to see you in person.
Yeah, and I love it. I totally embrace it. But I don't think I ever really got to the point of like not questioning God until like, honestly, more recently, like after the pandemic hit and I broke my arm and like I was really struggling and like mentally, physically, just like not okay. Like you can ask my parents.
Yeah.
And even to this day, I still have some of those days where I'm just a hot mess and cannot keep it together. But my mom just always used to say this and still says this, and honestly it comes from my great-grandmother, but my grandmother said it, and like multiple people in my life have always said this to me. It's the quote, God doesn't give you anything you can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
Now that leaves a mark, because as a 20-something-year-old, we'll call it, because I don't remember how old I was, it's just life was hitting me really difficult, or life was hitting me hard. I was 20-something years old. I had this new disease that not a lot of people knew about. And this pandemic hit, I had to have 2 surgeries because I broke my arm, and life was just really difficult. So it got to the point where like my parents and I were always like just getting at each other, and like I would say something, they would get upset, or vice versa. It eventually got to the point where my mom was like, Lex, I don't know what it's going to take, but like you need to like find God again, find peace with the situation, because nothing's going to get better if you don't start embracing what's happening. And I took that and kind of just rolled with it a little bit. I started praying the rosary more, or trying to at least, because to be honest, I kind of struggle with holding a rosary because I have bad dexterity in my hands, so holding stuff, it can get really challenging sometimes. But I was trying my best to embrace what I had and not focus on what I don't have. And I think that's a key word when you're like a young adult and you're really struggling with life and life in general and things that God is, not necessarily God, but like life is throwing at you. Try to focus on like the blessings that are in your life and not necessarily how your life could be better.
So true. It's so true. And I think, many youth ministers watch my episodes and learning how to be a youth minister, or maybe what to share with their youth ministry groups. And I think your story, Lex, what you shared with us, it's a story that you can easily bring somebody in that's a guest speaker, such as yourself, maybe in your local area, in your church, in the diocese you live in, that can share this message of positivity, that focusing not on the negative things, but on the blessings in your life. And youth need to hear that, and your message rings so true to them. And I think a lot of youth, and maybe just people in general, they're curious. They see you and they're like, okay, there's something different. She's in a wheelchair, she has brace on her leg. They say, what's different about her? So for you, what would your message want to be to those people that look at you and see something different? What would you like them to see?
Me for who I am, and me for my smile and what I bring to the table, and not the fact that I'm in a wheelchair and I struggle with walking and I need extra help with things. I like people to focus on my smile. So it's funny, one of the camp directors for the camp that I go to, called Camp Footprint, he has a podcast, and every podcast he ends with the question, if you could leave this mark on your world, what would your mark be? Or what does he say? I walk like a cowboy. How do you walk? And I always think to myself after listening to his podcast, I walk with a smile, or I roll with a smile, because I'm in a wheelchair. So like I roll with a smile, and I wish people would just try to focus all their energy on that, and not on the fact that I am in a wheelchair and I do struggle with more. So.
Right. Yeah. Now about your show, you bring a lot of this into your show, Changing with the Tides. Can you share a little bit about what you like to talk about, what your seasons have been about, and what you're doing this season?
Of course. So this season is focused mainly on, I keep calling it Catholic celebrities. I don't know why I keep laughing at that, because
it's good. It's sketchy.
Yeah, it is. But I wanted to try and focus more on trying to get the following that we do have more involved. So I tried to come up with something a category where it wouldn't be just me coming up with each episode. So when I was trying to think of something, and my mom and I were talking, just because like I said, we're home all the time together, and she's a big help in my life. We were talking, and she was like, well, you could do something with Pope Francis. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know, that's like not everyone, I imagine, loves Pope Francis. And like, I don't know, that's just, so I was like, what if I did like something like famous saints or like Catholic celebrities, and it just clicked. And honestly, that's kind of where I got the idea. And then before that, I was doing, I think last season was the Beatitudes, but prior seasons before were just like basically structured episodes where like each episode was something I knew what was coming, and like I could just easily go online and Google ideas on what to talk about. And my first season was mainly like topics that I came up with. So the first episode, as I think yours was just like an introduction. Who am I, what my story is, that type of thing. And then from there, I kind of did like my life story and my faith journey and why having a good support system is key in life and things like that, like different subjects. But then at some point, I don't know if I think it was after the pandemic started, I don't remember exactly when, but Mike was like, we need you to start focusing more on Catholic faith or something like that. And I was like, I can see where you're saying that. So then from there, I kind of just started doing like commandments, Beatitudes.
Yeah.
The gifts of the Holy Spirit. I just started focusing more on like.
Well, it's Talking Catholic, right? You got to put the Catholic in the Talking Catholic.
Exactly. So.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's a little bit about my.
Yeah, Changing with the Tides.
Changing with the Tides.
Such a great series. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. It is on our YouTube Talking Catholic channel, and you can find her. And Lex, you just share such a great joy and vibrancy with everybody you meet. And thank you, and I appreciate that. But I want to say, you said about your smile. That is the first thing I noticed when meeting you in person, because we've done a lot online and over Zoom, but we actually get to meet now because we're able to, like, things are calming down a little bit. We're able to be in person and do things like this where we can film. And your smile was the first thing I noticed. And I'm really appreciative of you being here on my show today. Can you leave our listeners or our viewers with one last quote, maybe a quote you like or something that rings true to who you are?
Okay. Sorry, just give me a second.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay, I'm going to leave off with an Audrey Hepburn one. It goes, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says I'm possible." I know it's not really faith-based, but honestly, that quote's been with me most of as long as I can remember. So, and I feel like, I don't know, but like, I feel like a lot of young girls are like, oh, Audrey Hepburn, Breakfast at Tiffany's. And honestly, she left a mark for me for my teenage years. So that's the quote that I choose.
Yeah, super positive and living what God has given you to live out in your life. So
exactly.
Well, thanks, Lex, for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. I had so much fun.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun too, and I hope you guys can check her out, Changing with the Tides, on YouTube's Talking Catholic. God bless.